Hello, welcome to Shad Life and the airplanes that fly over my house all the time. I am going to be completely honest with you. The Poseidon Norton has been probably the most disappointing complete bike review that I have ever done. I did get the Costco North Rock XC00 fat bike, which was a pretty disappointing review. But when I got that bike, under $500, I knew that it was going to be a low budget bike. The Poseidon Norton, which is basically $1,000, $999, I just expected more out of it. I knew that the stem was too long just from the specs, but I thought aside from that the bike was going to be a much better experience, and it just wasn't. It was a terrible experience. I am inserting this into this video right here, and I'll explain to you why, because there's definitely some information that isn't accurate on the Poseidon site, and I really honestly want to point this stuff out so you as a consumer don't get something that isn't what it's claimed to be. So let's take a look at it. Okay, so here is the website for the Poseidon Norton, and if you scroll through, you see all the details, so on and so forth. You get this prescription that, kind of hypes the bike up and everything. I get it, it's marketing, but chunky descent, maybe not with the tires that come on this bike. Urban street cruising, fine. BMX tricks, the bike's geometry isn't really set up for BMX tricks. XC trails, sure, yeah. But you're equipping a bike that is an aggressive style trail frame with parts that would go better on an XC bike, so it just doesn't really match. But here's the biggest issue right here. Their website clearly says this bike is 30 pounds. And, when I bought the bike, I expected a 30-pound bike. That is so inaccurate. I mean, it's not even within a pound. It's not even within a couple of pounds. This bike weighed 34.5 pounds. I mean, that is just basically not telling you the truth about the bike. When I saw 30 pounds, I was like, oh, this bike won't be that bad. But yet it came with this fork on it that honestly is just the biggest detractor from the bike, mainly because it is so freaking heavy. The bike is a super front end heavy. Once I swapped this fork out, the bike was closer to 31 and a half pounds. And then the other parts I added to it, which you're going to see in the rest of this video here momentarily, brought it down to the 30 pounds that I was promised when I got the bike. And so I decided to basically review just the frame. So I do not recommend going out and buying the complete bike, the Poseidon Norton complete. Not with what competition is out there. There's Treks, there's Canyons, there's all kinds of bikes out there that I would tell you to buy over that one. And think about something like the Canyon Stoic. Sure, it's like $500 more, but if you could just pull $500 more out of your pocket, you're gonna get such a better bike. Because honestly, if you buy this one, you're gonna have to put more than $500 into it just to make it something somewhat decent to ride. Mainly, the first thing you'll want to do is replace the fork, and that is not a cheap upgrade. So that being said, let's look over this bike and see all the stuff that I have changed, because I'm planning on taking it up to Cuyuna and ride it this weekend and give it a full review, spec'd the way that I would like it to be spec'd, just so I can review the frame and see if buying just the frame is a good buy or not. Let's take a look at it. let's start up front and work our way back. So the first thing I swapped out was I got rid of that fork, and then I had my profile helm stem on here, the 40mm, just to ride it and see if it was worth doing more upgrades to it, and I felt like it was. So after replacing the fork, I went out and bought better tires for the kind of riding I'm gonna do, and definitely better tires for what I would consider a more aggressive frame. Hi airplane, I like you. Not. And then the stock tires are just more of a cross-country tire, faster rolling tire, and just not something you would spec on something that's designed to be super aggressive, slack, long, so on and so forth. So those were the two main things in the front end. And then coming up here, I decided to order a 35mm stem, this nice spank stem, and I got these Chromag OSX foo bars, I believe they're called. Yes, foo bars. These are the same bars I have on my Salsa Rustler, so I know I like them, and I wanted a little more rise because I don't want to have to raise a bunch of spacers here. The more spacers you have, especially on a slack bike, you actually bring the handlebars back closer to you, and I had a bunch of spacers under there, so now I actually set this up, cut the fork where I need it, so on and so forth, and so now it feels about right. Huge upgrades here. I went and got Shimano XT bottom bracket because I had these SLX cranks laying around, and I wanted a much better crank set on here. Again, a bike that's $1,000 should not come with square taper crank set. Just should not happen. That's stuff that you expect on bikes like $500 or less, or you know, department store bikes, things like that. If Canyon can spec a $600 bike with a good hollow spindle, you know, two-piece crank and an external bottom bracket, so can Poseidon, right? So and then we come back to, and yes, somebody's gonna make a comment that I haven't switched out the pedals. I have so many pedals laying around when I go to ride this bike. Yes, I'm gonna put some better pedals on it. Huge upgrade here. I got a dropper post on here. That's a must, especially on an aggressive bike. So I actually found this Crank Brothers one, which was on sale, so I got it. Pretty nice post. Coming towards the back, again, another tire. This is a Bond Trigger SE4 team issue tire. Super nice. It's actually 27.5 by 2.4. I generally run 2.6 tires, but I saw a test recently on it wasn't Pink Bike, it was Vital MTB, where they tested a whole bunch of different tires, and they all were running 2.4s. so I thought, why not try a little bit smaller diameter, see if I like it. So I kind of got these. They'll probably end up on some other bikes too, so I can see what they're like. And I've never ridden a Bond Trigger tire, at least not a modern one, so I'm curious to know how they work. So you get a little tire review out of this too. Then we come back. I actually like Advent X. Didn't really clean it, but Advent X works really well. It's pretty surprising. I know it's only 10 speed, but it's got quite a good range. What I like is there's an equal shift between gears. You don't have any of these big kind of unpredictable jumps, so it actually rides really well. Advent X is a good, inexpensive alternative, and it's still mechanical. You don't have to go electronic and all that stuff, so really awesome. But I did upgrade the cassette. I went with their updated cassette because the other one was their cheaper version, which was all steel. This one has the aluminum two top rings, aluminum carrier and stuff, saves some weight there, and so on and so forth. So that's basically all the upgrades I've done. I can't think of any more things I've kept. Obviously the wheels are still stock. I did a quick little talk about these June Tech hydraulic cable actuated hydraulic brakes, hybrid brakes, whatever you want to call them. Very interesting. I'm gonna leave those on there and keep reviewing those. I'm hoping they break in more. They seem to be breaking in more, and they'll start working better as they do. I did add a wolf tooth dropper lever, but the thing is, the stock things I kept is I kept the grips. The grips feel pretty good. So I'm keeping them. Like I said, the wheels, seat clamp. What else is stock? Because I'm gonna put different pedals on. Although I said this already, but these are very much like how my BMX pedals are. And so with Vans, they actually aren't that terrible, believe it or not. So if you get this bike and you have these pedals, just get a good shoe like Vans, or maybe even a 510, and they'll grip pretty good. They're not going to grip as good as metal pins, but they're not terrible either. So now I'm just kind of rambling on, but oh yes, I did replace the housing with compressionless housing. That gives the brakes so much better feel. And once again, a bike should not ever be equipped without compressionless housing if it's a cable actuated bike. So there you have it. Those are my updates. I'm really hoping I like this frame at least. I definitely did not like the complete bike, and it almost seems like if this frame is gonna ride as good as I think it will ride, it's like the way that they equip the complete bike just detracts from what this frame really is about. So a couple of things. I did measure the head tube angle because the fork is 10 millimeters more. The head tube angle is around 64 degrees now, so a little bit slacker than the 65. And I did weigh it, and the bike weighs just a hair under 30 pounds. It was like 29.98 or something like that. So we're just gonna say 30 pounds, because when I put some legit pedals on there, it's obviously gonna add just those few little bits of weight to get it into the 30-pound range. So we're just gonna say 30 pounds. So that is 4.5 pounds that have been removed from this bike, most of that being the fork, because that fork that came stock in here was 3 pounds heavier than this DVO fork that I have on here. Okay, here's my favorite reason for having my scale. This thing is so heavy. We're gonna put it in the scale. Oh, how much is it? 7.69 pounds. Yeah, there you go. Holy moly. Okay, DVO sapphire fork in 140 millimeter. Same stanchion, 34 millimeter stanchion. Let's see how much this thing weighs. .52 pounds. That is a weight savings of over 3 pounds. Silliness. And this DVO fork is way more capable than that spring whatever crazy terrible fork that was on here. So there you have it. I don't like to be negative, but wow, that was just a terrible experience when I first rode this bike. And so now we're gonna see, when I bring this up to Cuyuna, give it a real test, see if this frame is legit or not. I'm sure a lot of you out there are really curious. I appreciate your support for my channel. Please like and subscribe. Peace.